Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the third of Glacier TV's Ice Lounge look at the teams that make up the 2013 iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Now, ineX Racing are a pretty new team, formed in 2010, but since then, they've come to be one of the fastest rising teams in the World Championship Series, and also are a dominant force in GT racing as well. We've seen them in the race department STC Championship and also in Polo GT as well, really showing their stuff. And today, we'd like to welcome in three guys. We'd have Timo Evening, we have Jason Lover, and also Jake Sturgios as well. Now, Timo, I'm going to come to you first. 2010, you set up the team. It's been a bit of a roller coaster ride since then, but take us through the preparation and actually how the team came about.
Well, the team started off as a pure Live for Speed team. A bunch of guys from different teams went together and decided to join force to try and compete for the top positions in the different endurance the races that were driven back then. After that, we just some people started making the change over to iRacing in 2010. People that are inactive right now, like Rudy Van Buren, Vincent Stahl, Nolan Scott, and we basically just some of us started to get over to iRacing, and we made a pretty big jump like 1.5 years ago, where we decided a bunch of guys to completely start driving iRacing, and that's pretty much where we are right now.
And since then, you've got guys who ran in the Pro Series, got themselves into the World Championship Series. You've got a number of guys representing. In fact, you've had a pretty good race here today. Two guys within the top 10, who's with us. But how difficult has that journey been over the last couple of years to get yourself, not only to top in the World Championship Series, but also in GT racing as well? Because we've seen so much of you in the McLaren GT3 car.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. We are the kind of team that we don't really just aim or focus on one car. We basically just we want to drive as much as we can in different cars, and so happens that McLaren is one of the best cars at the moment to drive in iRacing. So it's pretty obvious that some guys like to drive something else besides the VCS. But I mean, that's our main focus at the moment, and it's like we have this new breed of drivers coming all the time. It feels like we're 15 active black stripe guys, because we got Isaac Price, who got pro, and it looks very promising for pro season and DVC next year, and then we have another two guys in the top 10 at the moment in the A class. So I mean, always someone quits and then new guys comes in, and I mean, everyone likes different kind of racing, but I mean, DVC's main focus, but GT racing is also very fun, and we are really looking forward to like when iRacing decides to make driver swaps, so we can actually start driving in proper endurance races in the GT cars.
Now, I'm going to come over to Jake Sturgios, because Jake, you're actually kind of unique in the fact that you're the only driver currently with a black stripe for both the iRacing.com World Championship Series of road racing, but also the NASCAR Drivers' World Championship as well. Now, that's a pretty unique situation, and for you, you've got a very busy workload throughout the year.
Yeah, on the road side, mostly we work on the setups. On the oval side, I'm in Lastro Motorsports, and the guys over there make the setups. I can't really contribute as much with that. I guess due to lack of knowledge with the oval car setups, and also gets boring going around in circles all the time. But yeah, we're always working on setups over here for the F1 car. VIR was especially hard, trying to get traction out of it. And I try not to dedicate my life to iRacing. I try not to play more than, 5 to 10 hours a week.
And you've got, you say, the two series that you're running. How difficult is the transition from the close quarter racing that you have in the NASCAR World Championship Series to that of the iRacing World Championship Series, when you've got, a completely different ball game? Of course, you've got to turn left and right in the World Championship Series, but strategy is always an important part. Time management's always an important part. Can you take stuff from one to the other, or is it just a case you literally just have to separate your mind into two different series?
I mean, there's some similarities to it. The tire management, it's on both sides. You can't overheat your tires on the road or oval side, or you just go slow, you spin out, you hit the wall. Whatever, but Yeah, you got to take two different mindsets to it. The two cars handle totally different. Sometimes it'll take me 5-10 laps to transition back between the two. Just the F1 car, you brake so late. You really got to be careful on the throttle. And the NASCAR, you got to brake early and let the car roll, and you still can't just smash the throttle usually, or you'll spin out. And it's a lot heavier. But it's not too big of a transition. I run all the same settings in game for the most part, like force feedback and all that. So I don't switch between the two with that. And of course in NASCAR you have yellow flags, so that sort of makes it easier, but if you have a whole race with no cautions, that's a lot more difficult to push. It's more like an F1 race.
And I'll ask the same question to Jason in just a moment, but just how difficult has it been in the World Championship Series this year? Because it's been a kind of up and down season for you. You've had some good finishes, some not so good finishes. How would you rate your season so far?
Well, it's not nearly as perfect as last season. Besides the first race last season, I was in the top 10 every race, and this season I had a little bit of bad luck at Phillip Island. I think I was really fast there and got my front wing damaged on the first lap, so I pitted for a new one and was tearing through the field, and I think I made some enemies in that race. But wound up 14th at the end, and then Watkins Glen, the previous race, I got disconnected on the first lap. That's never happened before, so I guess I'd say the season's been about a 7 or an 8 so far. Sometimes the speed's been there and we've been really fast, other times just have bad luck.
And I say, I'll come on to Jason Lovett on this one. Jason, your season again, I mean, one of the things that drivers always know by you is you've always been one of the fastest guys in a straight line when it comes to the series. But take us through how your season's been, because you had a pretty good showing here today.
Yeah, this season's gone quite well compared to last season, where I was just slow for a lot of the races. I feel like I've got more of a chance of sort of more frequent, decent results, top 10s occasionally. It's a definite improvement.
And when you have a look at the season, not only the season itself this year, but you having to race in the Pro Series of road racing in the fall of last year, and now everything now, just how difficult has that overall journey been to get to the position that you're in right now?
It is difficult having to do both the Pro Series and the DWC for 2 seasons in a row, and hoping to avoid that this season and have a break.
Now, I'll ask all you guys a question. So we've now passed the halfway point of the 2013 World Championship season. So we've got ourselves another 8 races left to go. We're going to start that at Silverstone. We have a 3-week gap between this race and the next race. I'll come to you first on this, Jake. Just how important is it actually to have that extra week to chill out and remember the fact that everyone has real lives, but also to prepare for that charge in the second half of the season?
Oh, we have a week off. That'll be nice. Silverstone's not really a track I enjoy practicing for, so if that's the next track we're going to, that kind of sucks to have an extra week to practice for that. But yeah, I guess it's nice. Seems you come back and you forget about everything that's been going on the whole season. It's almost like a fresh start halfway through the season.
And Jason, of course, Silverstone will serve as your home track as well. Is it a track that you enjoy racing at? Of course, you raced there in the Pro Series of road racing earlier, but of course on the different track layout to the one that we will be running in 3 weeks' time.
Yeah, I quite like Silverstone. Well, I really enjoyed the historic version because I feel more comfortable with the car at high-speed tracks. So generally, I quite like it. Although it is a tricky track to actually race and pass on, so you need to have some speed, otherwise you're nowhere.
And we alluded to this just a tiny bit a moment ago, but we always saw, you know, I remember when we commentated the Pro season about 6 months ago, tracks like Indianapolis, for example, Silverstone was one of them, Phillip Island was one of them. The straight line advantage that you guys always seem to have was dramatically bigger than a number of the other guys. Is there a particular area of the setup that you work on deliberately to kind of find that extra straight line speed, or is it just something that's naturally come about for the work that you've done?
Well, we have Jason Lovett, and like everyone knows, we have the Lollet 7th gear, which Shotmania knows about, which is basically just having a super long 7th gear just to make sure to be able to pass. It's maybe not always the optimal in case if you're running up front, like we always see Gregor Razzi and Hugo, and these guys run a really short 7th gear because they're optimizing to be up front, but if you're a few positions down, it's not always a bad idea to maybe have a longer 7th gear to be able to pass. Other than that, no, I don't think we need to like work on anything special, just to try and get the maximum grip out of the slow corners. But it's so tricky with the current model and the car itself.
And of course, being the sort of team that you are, coming up through the ranks in the World Championship Series, how is it been a case at all that you guys have had to be kind of accepted into the series, or do you feel like, you just feel like any other competitor, you can stand toe to toe with the red line drivers and the Mo3AD drivers of the day in such a way, or it's just for you, Timo, that you've already kind of established yourself just because of the fact that you are WCS drivers?
Well, I mean, yes, I think we kind of came from nowhere a couple of years ago, and I mean, we have new blood that looks very promising for our future, so our future is secured as well. And I mean, when we started off going into iRacing a lot, before that, we had one driver racing on the top level, and that was Jake. Everyone else was doing a Live for Speed still, and I have never seen a guy so loyal like Jake. I mean, he had no help whatsoever. He was doing everything himself, and was the first guy, I think, who went from straight from pro, or from getting a black license, black stripe, to going into the VCS without doing the pro series. So I mean, and after that, it's just been, the ball got rolling, and it's just been rolling since that.
And of course, Jake, you also have your own brother team as well, Pete. Just how interesting is the relationship and the dynamics you guys having to, not only race as teammates, but at times actually compete with each other on the racetrack, sharing the same team emblem?
On the road side, usually I'm quicker and he'll sort of let me go. At Interlagos, he just sort of dived on me in the first turn on the first lap, made it 3 wide, and we made that work barely, but he let me go a few laps later. And we race in real life together. He works on the car I've been driving this year, so we're always working on stuff together.
Do you two ever fall out?
Oh, we try not to.
Emphasis there, I'm guessing, on the word try. But let's turn our attention away briefly from the WCS and talk about GT racing. We have talked about it a little bit. And Timo, we have seen, in Polar GT and in the race department Blue Cup. I mean, you guys have already wrapped up the Blue Cup Championship with a race left to go. So in the GT side of things, you pretty much have been dominant recently.
Yeah, well, like I said earlier, we have a few guys who really enjoys driving the car, and these guys are so naturally talented that, I mean, they are just so fast, and especially when it's a car they enjoy to drive, it can't be more perfect than that. And I mean, just like STC, for example, we kind of had a plan even before the season started, just to make sure we always finish with 2 cars. That was like the main goal we had every race, because losing 1 car is so devastating in a championship like this. And yeah, we might have got lucky a few times, but it pretty much followed our own plan from start to finish.
And as a team manager, do you kind of have to find a way of making sure that you meet all your objectives? For example, you had that in the STC, but also making sure that you don't detract the workload from the WCS, or do you see the WCS as a bigger series than some of your GT stuff, and how does it work that way?
Yeah, we kind of try to balance it out, so it's not too much. I mean, obviously it's gonna be a lot to drive 3 different top level elite series, so it's hard work, and then everything that comes around with the team as well. Right now it's like it's pretty straightforward with who we have in the team, etc. We haven't recruited anyone for 1.5 years, so I mean, it's a good dynamic in the team, and and off track it's really good, and we are really good friends. We speak to each other every day and stuff like that. So you know, kind of automatically everything just falls into part. And yeah, I mean, Polar GT is one of these leagues as well. I mean, if you look at the names who are driving there, is so competitive that the guys want to really show what they can do against these drivers.
Now, Timo and Jason, you guys, you're both within the top 25 in the point standings. However, precariously close. It's very close right now, actually, from about P18 all the way down to, you could argue, about P30 in the standings, as to who will get into the top 25 and therefore keep the World Championship Series license for 2014. Of course, Jake right now, on the other hand, is sat in the 4th position in the standings. Not too far back from Ati Kirchhoff when you consider how much of the season that you've got to go, and of course ahead of Martin Kroenke, who's for the time being hang up his racing helmet and he won't be back until the end of the season. But do you guys take a different approach now into the second half of the season? I'm not necessarily saying focus your attention on Jake, but do you have two different mindsets going in? For example, for yourself, Jason, and for Timu, do you have to race differently to the way that Jake would have to race to make sure you stay in that top 25?
Well, I just race to make sure that I always try and finish the race and avoid any pile-ups at the start, which haven't been too successful at in the recent races. If you can get to the finish, normally you should be in the top 20, so that's just the main aim.
And Timu?
Yeah, I mean, I already missed a few races, and I know that there's gonna be a few more that I'm gonna miss. So I'm also just pretty much just aiming to get decent finishes, so I could try and avoid the Pro Series. I mean, it's always fun to race, but it gets too much when you have to race Pro and then BCS after that again. So yeah, basically I don't have the pace to run up with the guys like Jake and Simon and Jason. So I'm pretty much just trying to do my own race and just making sure I get the finishes in. And sometimes if you get lucky, like Watkins Glen last week, almost got a top 10. So I'll take those like that.
And Jake, for yourself, you sat at, say, 4th place in the standings. You've got Max Alorco about 50 points behind you. You've got Ati Kirchhoff about 50 points ahead. Realistically, do you think you can once again gain 3rd place in the championship standings? Is 2nd too far out of reach, for example?
If I didn't have some bad luck earlier in the season, I'd say maybe, but at this point in the season, it's kind of a long shot. I mean, it would be nice, but there's really nothing I can do to stop those guys ahead of me unless they have trouble. They've just always been faster, especially Hugo. And I mean, Atse has his days where he's right up there with Gregor and he's really fast, and then other days he's just a little bit quicker than me. So realistically, I think 4th is about where I'll end up finishing. Hopefully no worse than that.
And as we kind of head ourselves, through 2013, thinking about 2014, let's look to the future as well, because Timo, you've kind of already discussed this. A number of guys already working themselves in the iRacing Grand Prix Series, trying to get themselves to their black stripes so they can compete in the 2013 Pro Series of Road Racing. Just how interesting is the team going to be over the next 6 months, but also how difficult will the workload be if you've got to support guys through the Pro Series, but then also think about WCS and everything else going on at the same time?
Yeah, that's always the problem, because the way the car is right now, it's not always super fun to drive more than needed. So when you have these new guys coming in and trying to go for the black stripe, it can get quite too much sometimes. But I mean, you just have to try and work as a team and try and motivate each other to do more practice and do the proper preparation that these guys needs, and give them the correct guidelines they need to be able to achieve good results in the future.
Well, guys, we wish you all the best of luck for the second half of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Of course, you can see the rest of the season live on GlacierTV, and you can also see the guys in the final round of the FTC Blue Cup and Polar GT. Both of those series also broadcast by us guys here at GlacierTV. Myself, Will Vincent, thank you very much. To Timo Evening, Jason Lover, and for Jake Sturgis. We'll talk to you all a little bit later on. Bye-bye.